Good afternoon. It's Friday, everyone. I'm Leanne Young. We're here in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. I've got your top stories from around our region. A warning for drivers heading out on the Coquihalla. Environment Canada maintains a snowfall warning for the stretch between Merritt and Hope. The Coquihalla summit is forecasted to get another 15 to 25 centimeters today, with more snow tomorrow. Meanwhile, a 50-meter section of the Highway 3 from Hope through Manning Park remains closed due to washouts. And BC Today will have more on that, the damages and the repairs coming up. And the province has shut down a private college with campuses in Surrey and Burnaby for misleading international students. Pacific Link College had its certification revoked in October. It came just weeks after a pair of students came forward to CBC News alleging the school required them to participate in a political campaign for course credit. One immigration lawyer applauds the closure but says the province needs to do a better job inspecting problem schools.
I very much want to see the province be much more assertive, even aggressive in some instances where it's warranted, with the certification process and follow-ups. And again, I will say this should be annual and this should be without warning.
Hundreds of students were affected by Pacific Link's closure. Officials are advising them to seek tuition refunds. And the federal government says it will help restore another piece of Lytton after the entire town was destroyed by wildfires in 2021. It is investing nearly $15 million to help rebuild the Chief Splintum Elders Lodge. The original lodge had 6 units, and the new one will have 13.
We all came together. We know this is a big need, so we're looking forward to making this happen and bringing some of the elders home that are still displaced due to the fire.
The new lodge will be built with fire-resistant materials, including metal roofing and siding. Well, some may call it a Christmas miracle. After being bare for weeks, the North Shore mountains have gotten enough of the white stuff to open up. Just in time for winter break, Grouse opened today for skiers and snowboarders. The mountain says it got about 40 centimeters of snow in the last few days to create a good base.
Everyone's so excited. So it's the anticipation, it's building among our team, it's building among the community. Obviously, we wanted to get open as soon as we can, so it was just making sure that everything was prepared from our lift ops, our mountain ops, our patrol teams, our snow guns. So getting everything ready so that we could hit the ground running as soon as we got the snow.
Cypress Mountain is opening up tomorrow, and Seymour says it will open very, very soon in the coming days. And BC's own Michael Bublé spent Thursday afternoon handing out fresh food to seniors at the Greater Vancouver Food Bank. The renowned singer praised the food bank for helping families put fresh food on the table with dignity.
And I'm so happy that I could be a part of it. My job isn't to be here to virtue signal. My job isn't to be here so that you'll think I'm a good person. My job is to be here so that that camera would come down, and that if there were people just like me that weren't aware of how awesome this place was, that I could say, hey, I'm Michael Bublé, go check this out, we need your help.
Bublé says while food banks help, he wants to see governments play a larger role in addressing food insecurity. The Greater Vancouver Food Bank will distribute over 9.5 million pounds of food this year. And that's it for me for now. I'm Leanne Young, signing off for the next 2 weeks, wishing you and yours a happy and restful holiday season. I'll see you in 2026. BC Today with Amy Bell, guest host, is next.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Holiday travel is in full swing, but with highway closures and stormy weather, this year could be less than merry. We'll have the latest info, plus tips and tricks for safe travels this holiday season. And everyone's favorite gardening guru, Brian Minter, will be here in our second half to answer all of your gardening questions. I'm Amy Bell, in for Michelle Elliott, and this is BC. And thanks so much for joining us on radio, TV, and live stream. You can call us now on our top story. What are your holiday travel plans, and has the weather impacted those plans? Our number is 604-669-3733. You can also call us at 1-800-825-5950 or hit pound 690 on your cell phone if it's safe to do so. And you can always email us at any time, bctoday@cbc.ca. And following last week's atmospheric river, Highway 3 remains partially closed, or closed in part because of intense rainfall that destroyed and damaged culverts and washed away a portion of the roadway. Currently, there are 22 locations along Highway 3 between Hope and Princeton that are damaged, including 11 sites where the damage was deemed extensive. The highway functions as one of the major routes between BC's South Coast and the Okanagan region. And for an update, we're now joined by Janelle Staite. She is the Ministry of Transportation's Executive Director for South Coast Region. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Busy week for you, obviously. What can you tell us about the current state of Highway 3?
Yeah, so following the atmospheric river that first came in on December 10th, as you mentioned, we had 21 sites that were damaged at that point, and repairs got quickly underway as soon as it was safe to do so. And we were making great strides on those over the kind of 4 or 5 days following that event. And then on the 15th of December and through the night into the 16th, we had another large series of rains that resulted in a new site that is a very significant failure. So it's washed away about 50 meters of Highway 3 between Princeton and Hope. So right now, that is our major focus that we have crews and workers out there working on in efforts to restore the highway.
And this is the second major closure of the route, the first, of course, being after 2021's atmospheric river. And obviously, significant repairs and updates were completed then. What was the work that was done 4 years ago, and why was there still so much damage following this latest storm?
Yeah, so what we had 4 years ago was several areas where we had some lane washouts, some undermining of the highway in areas where the river comes close to the highway, and those areas were repaired. We also looked at increasing our climate resiliency, so in areas increased culvert sizes. This is a new site that wasn't impacted in the 2021 event, and just an influx of water and a plugged culvert resulted in large amounts of ponding that essentially the highway was serving as a bit of a dam, trying to hold back that water until it was unable to do so. So different site than what we saw in 2021, but certainly lots of repair works that were done following the atmospheric river event in 2021 to make the highway more resilient, which is why we did see a much lesser degree of damage than we did see in 2021.
All right, and how was this storm, I suppose, different from the events of 2021?
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of similarities in terms of the events, large volumes of precipitation through both events 5 years ago and today. I think the biggest piece, again, is that we anticipated and learned a lot from that event from 2021. So as we were then, we made sure we had our crews out there, that we were ensuring that drainage appliances were working as they should, keeping water flowing. But again, water inundate systems when it comes down at a high degree and a high volume and a high sort of hourly rainfall. And that's what we saw in this event.
And of course, we're heading into the holidays. This closure impacts Manning Park. We also saw closures due to poor weather and collisions on Highway 5 and 97 yesterday. What will this closure of Highway 3, I guess, what would the impact potentially be as people are heading out for the holidays and wanting to access the interior?
Yeah, so right now we're thinking it's probably several weeks ahead of us as we
Okay.
look to restore a single lane of traffic on Highway 3, specifically at this site. This site is about 40 kilometers from the Highway 35 junction. So right now, locals are able to get from Hope to the Sunshine Valley. And also on the Princeton side, folks are able to get from Princeton to the Manning Park Resort. So those areas are still accessible. It's simply that folks can't travel continuously from Hope to Princeton along that Highway 3 corridor.
And is there any, I suppose, preventative or mitigation work planned for Highway 3 or perhaps other highways in BC to, sort of prevent further damage in the event of any more of these catastrophic storm systems?
Yeah, so part of our engineering standards really look at climate resiliency. So as we start to see more intense weather events come through more frequently, we're upsizing the size of our culverts that are going in and taking a close look at our infrastructure to make sure that they can handle that. So that is a proactive part of what we do throughout our infrastructure, and we will continue to do that moving forward. Again, in some areas when precipitation is as high and has the intensity that it does, there will still be areas that potentially are at risk of washouts such as this, but our standards are intended to be in place to really limit that.
All right. And is aging infrastructure, at all a concern across the province that we need to be aware of? Certain highways might be more vulnerable to damage?
Yeah, I think our teams across the province do a great job of taking a look and having an inventory of our infrastructure to identify areas where we know they potentially have greater areas of risk, and we're in there making projects, making sure that we upsize those culverts. So a lot of the proactive work that we do as part of our rehabilitation along the corridors is looking at just that, is to make sure our highways are more resilient proactively in light of the fact that we have varying ages of infrastructure around British Columbia.
All right. And Janelle, just before I let you go, I just wanted you to reiterate in terms of a timeline of when we might have a further idea of when it could reopen.
Yeah, so at this point, as I say, several weeks. So folks who are planning to travel throughout the holiday season should look at alternate arrangements. Not expecting to get through on Highway 3. We do have a lot of technical equipment and engineers out on site right now, including drill rigs that we mobilized from both sides. So we expect early into next week to have a bit more of a refined timeline in terms of when folks can expect to be able to get through there, at least from a single lane.
All right. Janelle, thanks so much for taking time with us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. That is Janelle Staite from the Ministry of Transportation. She is the Executive Director for the South Coast region. And of course, as elementary and high schools wrap up today, it is bound to be a very busy travel weekend. But aforementioned highway closures and bad weather in the forecast, you might be rethinking some of your holiday plans. So we're asking, has the weather impacted your plans? But also, what are your holiday travel plans? Where are you and your family planning on going? Call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone, or you can call us at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can email us, busybctoday@cbc.ca. We are busy, but you can still email us, or leave a comment on our TikTok Live. And we are joined now by McKenzie McMillan. He is co-owner of the Travel Group. Thank you for coming in, McKenzie.
Thanks for having me.
I know it's been a very busy week for you.
It has been, yes.
Busy time of year. So yesterday was reported to be the busiest day at YVR, busiest travel day. So where are British Columbians flying off to this week?
Yeah, so definitely it was likely the busiest day of the year, and they make that determination based on kind of just how it's been in years past as well. And so we'll probably see that being roughly the busiest day, and it'll be very similar across the country. Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, very similar. It tends to be about 5 days before Christmas, tends to be the busiest day of the year for travel. So it's a mix of things. We've got people traveling domestically, visiting their family for the holidays, but we also have a lot of sun seekers heading down south. So places like Mexico and the Caribbean for that Christmas vacation.
And are people staying away from the U.S.? We've heard this time and time again, but is that actually true, or are people sort of secretly booking, trips to Hawaii?
We haven't seen a major change in the dynamic for travelers since sort of that that story began to break in about February of this year. We have seen a little bit of a softening to certain U.S. destinations, primarily Hawaii and California. But overall, we're still looking at about a 40% drop in U.S. travel nationwide. Okay. So most people are going to Mexico.
And I would assume too with Christmas it's a little bit different because it's not necessarily people choosing to go to a U.S. destination. That is where their family lives and they want to spend the holidays with them.
Exactly. Yeah. So most of the travelers that we are seeing going to the States right now are going down for family reasons.
As we were mentioning, we've had some chaos thanks to snowstorms, atmospheric rivers. We've had the Alberta Clippers coming through. So how do we handle these weather-related troubles when it comes to travel? What are some of the biggest challenges that people face?
Yeah, so this happens to be one of the busiest travel times of the year, but it also is the most volatile for Canadians, at least, traveling to other places. So we often have to deal with weather issues. If you remember the last few years here in Vancouver, we had major shutdowns of the airport right around Christmas time because of snow. Storms. And the other day, Calgary was shut down, and Saskatoon yesterday had a major disruption due to snow. So it's just part of life living in the north around the winter time. Yeah. So we have to get used to it. The most important thing that I can suggest for travelers that are planning trips around this time of year is to get travel insurance. Absolutely protect your investment. And it's not so much about just the cancellation insurance, but most trip cancellation policies will also have what's called trip interruption. And that covers you for things like snow and weather delays, because the airlines are not required to compensate you or take care of you if it's due to an issue, if their cancellations or delays are due to an issue that's beyond their control, which would be the weather. So that's where insurance comes in, whether it's getting you a hotel for the night, covering your meals and expenses, or getting you alternative transportation to your final destination. All
right, we've got a call that's come in from Kelly in Vancouver. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Have you had your travel plans changed or impacted by the weather?
Definitely impacted.
Okay.
I'm driving down to the States, and there's an extra hour and 45 minutes that has been tacked on to my drive to Vail, Colorado, thanks to Stevens Pass being shut down.
Right.
So rather than cutting through the Cascadia and the coastal mountains, I am having to now drive down to Portland. So
all right,
that's always a fun one.
Well, I really appreciate you calling in, and I hope you have safe travels and a good time in Colorado this year. And we would love to hear more of your travel plans if they have been impacted by the weather, or just where you and your family are heading to this time of year. You can call us at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. McKenzie, what kind of advice do people maybe forget about this time of year? You've got so much on your go. You're trying to remember your presents. It's a frazzled time of year for so many. What are things that people really need to remember this time of year?
Flexibility is the most important thing. And I think that caller nailed it when she was talking about having to go all the way down to Portland just to get over to Vail, Colorado, which sounds like a pretty good final destination, if you ask me.
Lovely place at Christmas.
But it's a good place to be at Christmas. But it's flexibility. So if you're planning trips, and especially if you're planning airline trips that involve flights, don't make sure that you always have a buffer for your final destination, so that if you do miss a day, your trip's not ruined. Right. That's really important. One of the other pieces of advice that I often give that people don't even think about is that imagine you're going to St. Martin. Why would you have to worry about weather in St. Martin? It's probably sunny and 30 degrees.
I'm just imagining I'm going to St. Martin.
On the beach. It sounds wonderful. But you probably have to go through Toronto to get there. And so it's that connecting point that can often be where things go sideways.
Right.
So if you're not averse to traveling through the United States right now, we generally suggest that if you are going south and do have to make a connection, try finding a route that has a connection somewhere that wouldn't normally be affected by cold weather.
Okay.
Places like Houston, Atlanta, Miami, Los Angeles, those are great connecting points to kind of avoid the sort of winter weather. Avoid Calgary, Toronto, Denver, Chicago. Those places are so disproportionately affected by winter weather that it can really going to a southern area or southern airport may mitigate a lot of that risk for you.
We had a comment on TikTok from Marissa. She says, I'm about to drive up to Vancouver to see a show tonight. I'm not sure where she's driving from, but I'm sure it's going to be a lovely show. And that is true. We do have a lot of people that do come into Vancouver for various events and to see family and to head up to the North Shore Mountains. If somebody is coming into Vancouver, what's something that they should keep in mind in terms of weather and traveling smoothly in the area?
Rain jacket and kayak. Those are good starts. No, I think that, just again, it's whether it's rain or it's snow or it's wind, it is just making sure that you pack your patience, give yourself extra time to get to your destination. And in the case of the highways leading out of Vancouver, it's a bit unfortunate because there isn't much you can do when all the roads are closed. So drive down through the United States and come back up. But again, it's having that flexibility. So if you're going to a show tonight and you're leaving today, you might be in trouble. So it's definitely give yourself that extra bit of time.
It's tough, though. Again, just given that time of year, so many people are so busy and they really pack themselves into these spots where they don't have that wiggle room.
Yeah.
And you need to remember that.
It makes it very difficult, yeah.
And I mentioned earlier, we've got kids coming down, finishing up school today. And so a lot of people will be heading out this weekend. When you are traveling with small kids that are obviously going to be very excited for the holidays, is there anything you can do to make that a little bit smoother?
Oh, I mean, that is a tough one because I think
I'm
that,
so glad I have teenagers now.
See, and I'm not a parent myself, so I can't quite empathize with people when they're traveling with kids. But when I do see parents traveling with children, finding creative ways to keep your kids entertained, especially if you end up with a lengthy delay at an airport or a lengthy flight. I know that a lot of time we try to avoid too much screen time with kids. This might be one of those times to maybe let them have the iPad for a few hours to keep them occupied. But it is just keeping kids entertained, making sure that they're comfortable, and don't. And I would also say, and I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm a travel agent, but I can say that don't express your frustration in a way that children will see, because it does translate. I mean, it translates between adult to adult when someone's stressed out. So pack your patience, pack your kindness, and maybe a few Zen moments to help get you through it.
That is such an incredibly wonderful reminder to get, especially this time of year. But it is true, quite often in these situations, not just kids, once one person starts getting stressed and anxious about a situation, it's got that ripple effect. So don't let it be you. You be the one that stays calm. Right. And Marissa did get back to us. Thank you for that. She says, Seattle area, the rain jacket and boots and inflatable paddleboard are always loaded. I love that, Marissa. You are set for that. Feel free to leave a TikTok comment or email us at bctoday@cbc.ca. Or, of course, you can always call us at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. We're just talking about holiday plans and what yours are and whether they've been impacted by the weather that we've been seeing this week. We're sitting, of course, with McKenzie McMillan. He is co-owner of the Travel Group Travel Agency. And I'm curious if you're planning a holiday getaway.
I actually just got back. So I was away. I generally go away at the beginning of December, avoids the crowds, but also for work. I have a conference I attend every year at the beginning of December. So
that's right. Last time we talked, you were in France.
I was still in France. Yeah, that's right. So I usually make a trip out of it. Try to enjoy myself while I'm all over there. So no, generally, my family's here. I'm fortunate enough to have my family in the Metro Vancouver area, so I get to stay here and relax and a sunny destination maybe in January, February, once it's
the best time to
once
go.
It's calmed down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. That's when we're really into the darkest days of the winter.
Exactly.
It seems. Let's talk about some of the challenges of packing. Just for what you need for the holidays. And of course, we know that we've got gifts that a lot of people are packing. So what can people do to sort of reduce what they're bringing with them, especially with some of the travel restrictions that certain airlines have?
Yeah, well, I would say first and foremost, do not wrap your presents before you travel. Yeah. That's a big no-no.
And every year, it seems people forget.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, do not do it. You bring the wrapping with you or buy some wrapping when you land, but do not wrap presents before you travel. It can be really difficult. I usually recommend that people try to get, if they're flying with one of the Canadian carriers like Air Canada, WestJet, both of them have different tiers of economy fares. Do not book an economy basic fare or an economy standard fare if you're planning to travel with luggage, because those fares do not include check baggage. And often the increase in price to go to what they call a flex fare, where you would have baggage included, actually sometimes is actually less than it costs just to add the bag piecemeal after the fact. So definitely look at the pricing on there and just see. And also with the flexible fares, you get a bit more. You get a seat selection. You get a few extras that make your life a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and a little bit easier sometimes.
Valuable presents, carry them on. Don't check them. Anything that you're going to need within 48 hours of arriving in your destination, try to put it in a carry-on bag because it does happen, especially if there's a big snowstorm in Toronto. Your bag might not make it onto the flight that you are connecting to, and you want to make sure you're prepared for that so you don't get stuck with no presents.
No
for
presents.
Christmas. Yeah.
We've got a call from Jerry in Vancouver. Hi, Jerry.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for calling in.
Oh, thank you. My niece is flying from Halifax.
Okay.
And she was coming here and then changed to Air North to go to Whitehorse, Yukon. Okay. Air Canada called her yesterday late and said due to the winds and the storms expected for tomorrow, they had her change her flight out of Halifax to today and then routed her through a different city, and her small children have to be in a different seat than her, although I find when you get on the plane, people are happy to put Mom there. And then she'll have to stay overnight here in a hotel to get to Whitehorse tomorrow. But I just thought anybody on the East Coast might be prepared for that if, excuse me, if they're going there.
Thank you for that point, and we are almost out of time, McKenzie, but that's also something I wanted to ask about. Do people not always factor in that the weather happening in a way other part of the country might impact their travel plans?
Almost always.
Yeah.
And one of the things, too, is with a lot of the airlines, they run such tight schedules, and so a plane may fly from here to Calgary, but it's not necessarily flying back. It could be flying Calgary to Yellowknife,
right,
or Calgary to Toronto afterwards. And if we have problems in Vancouver and that flight gets delayed, that Calgary to Toronto, which may be blue skies the whole way, might be affected by it. But one other thing I wanted to note about that was a long journey, by the way.
Yeah,
that's impressive. Is that hopefully they were ticketed all the way together, even though it's different airlines.
Right.
But a lot of times passengers will fly, say, to Vancouver and then book onto a third airline that is not connected on the ticket. If their original flight is affected, that other airline has no obligation to help them. Okay. So it's really important to try to make sure you're on one ticket from point A to your final destination.
All right, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much, McKenzie, and best of the season to you, and happy holidays to you and yours.
You as well. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And McKenzie McMillan, of course, joined us here in studio. He is the co-owner of the travel group Travel Agency. It is 12:28, and this is BC Today. And we are inching closer and closer to surpassing last year's total for our Make the Season Kind food bank donations. Last year's total was $2.4 million, and this year the total now stands at $2,361,188.39. and counting. Thank you. I am willing to bet that we are going to beat last year's total if this keeps up. And remember, we have until the end of the year on December 31st to do so. These funds will go to the 111 food banks in BC and will go a long way to help those in need. Now, to make a donation, just go to cbc.ca/kindbc. Click on Donate Now. Once again, cbc.ca/kindbc, and click on the Donate Now button. You'll receive a tax receipt within hours. You can also donate by text. Text KIND to 20222. We sincerely want to thank everyone who has donated and to those who can donate further. Thank you for joining us here on BC Today. Coming up soon, we're going to talk with everybody's favorite gardening guru. Brian Minter will join us, so get your calls in now and email us at bctoday@cbc.ca. It is time now for the 12:30 news with Tarnjeet Parmar.
Good afternoon. The vacancy rate for rental homes in Vancouver is now at 3.7%, the highest level in more than 30 years. CMHC partially attributes the high rate to new housing that has been completed and federal policy changes leading to fewer temporary residents. The Ministry of Transportation says it will take several weeks to restore access to Highway 3 after heavy rains washed out a 50-meter section of the road. In a statement, the ministry says the damaged section is located 40 kilometers east of the Highway 3 and 5 junction. Equipment has been sent to the site and work is underway to restore single-lane access. Drivers traveling between the Lower Mainland and Southern Interior are being told to expect heavier than normal volumes on Highways 1 and 5. And in Qualicum Beach on Vancouver Island, the $8.5 million purchase of Eagle Crest Golf Course has now been finalized. The town is now the official owner of the 42.5-hectare golf course after months of public consultation. The plan is to sell 4 hectares to developers for housing while maintaining 20 hectares as a 9-hole golf course and then developing the rest for parklands. Parcels of land will be sold for development starting in 2026 with further public consultation on the development of the land to come. Those are your headlines from the CBC Vancouver newsroom. For more information, you can go to the website cbc.ca/BC.
Thanks so much for that, Tarnjeet. And we bet a lot of you are knee-deep in the holiday spirit as we count down the days to Christmas. And a go-to way to celebrate is hitting up a Christmas market in the community. The Shipyards in North Vancouver has one, and it has free admission. Here's owner and co-founder John Van Rye to tell us a bit more.
We started this by recognizing the fact that a lot of the events in the Lower Mainland are very expensive when it comes to entertainment, and especially around Christmas, we feel that everybody should be included and that everybody has a chance to really participate in Christmas. So we decided to do a Christmas market that's free admission right here in North Vancouver at the Shipyards. And we have about 100 vendors, or 100 stalls and 140 vendors that will be here for 28 days. We have Santa Claus, which is also free. You can take photos with Santa Claus, with your dog, your family. We have free entertainment on 2 stages every day. And like I said, it's open to everybody. So feel free to come and enjoy the festivities.
And the storms make a troublesome time for you gardeners out there, with the rain potentially putting your plants in harm's way. But luckily, Master Gardener Brian Minter is here with his sage advice on what to do and take any questions you have on all things gardening. He is, of course, joining us from Country Garden Limited in Chilliwack. You can call us at 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell phone, and email us bctoday@cbc.ca. Brian, we have been weathering stretches of stormy days and stormy nights. What do gardeners have to keep in mind during this kind of weather?
Well, that's such a great question, and there's not one thing. It's a whole series of different things we have to, briefly get through here. One of the worst things you can have is, and it's so good that it does happen, you can go out and when it's raining hard, don't stay in the house, get out and look in your garden because where water is sitting, that's the most important thing you need to deal with because the plants don't do well in that situation. So just really mark off those areas, and a couple of things. times, if you have a bigger lot, you can put drain tiles down to be able to make sure that when it does rain a lot, the water does drain away quickly. That's very important. And sometimes it's just a matter of digging a hole, and I would say probably 3 or 4 feet deep, maybe 2 or 3 feet wide, and filling it with really good drain rock, putting over top of that, put some landscape fabric, and then put your soil back in to the depth you would like to have. But every time it does rain in the future, that water will get away. And that is very important to the roots of so many plants. The other thing is wet soil. And it's really a good time to find out, is my soil well drained or not? And if the water sits and it's not getting away and it's squishy and slushy out there, what you really want to do is add some material when it dries out, of course. My 2 favorite things are fir or hemlock bark mulch, very fine ground up, or sawdust into the soil. We did that in our gardens 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and what a difference is made to this date. So open up the soil so it's when we do get moisture, the water does get away quickly. So many plants really need that, and that's absolutely incredible. The other thing in raised beds, look at our raised beds, they're pretty well drained, but you know what a lot of folks are doing? It's simply taking some polyethylene and covering up all the raised beds. So why let the water sit? And a lot of our containers as well. So many of us are containing garden right now. Why are we letting that water sit in there? Put some polyethylene over, cover our pots completely, cover our raised beds completely until the weather breaks up and isn't so wet, because that will make a difference in terms of how soon we can get going in the spring. And we don't want that heavy wet soil. That is very important. And something we forget about too, our compost. So many of you gratefully are composting. And remember, it's a balance between being too wet and too dry in a compost. And we always want it concave this time of year. So put plastic over top, keep your compost dry so the bacteria have a chance to work. And that to me is very important. Even more strategic though, if you live in an area where we have bigger trees, we're getting so much wind right now, the ground is wet. And I think if you can see your tree moving because the soil is so porous and open and soft that, with the wind, the tree roots will move. And as we're finding out in many of our forests right now, and I would really take a call to professional people who have tree services where they can come and prune your trees. Because if you take that massive sail away, where it's not such a stress on the tree in terms of being able to move, getting that pruned back would be really wise for you and the neighborhood as well. Or if your neighbor's got that tree and it's up against your house, I think you want to do something and make contact there, which is very, very good. Our lawns are going to be soaking wet as you go through the lawn.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. I think what we always talk about in the autumn when the ground is soft enough, and in the spring where you can push a pencil into the ground lightly, it's okay to aerate. We need to aerate this year for sure, and add about a 1/4 inch of sand over the area once you've aerated to improve the drainage as well. And don't forget that we're making that water sitting over a longer period of time. It's making the soil more acidic. So what we really want to do is add lime as soon as we possibly can. Let's get that pH back up so our plants will be much happier. That's very, very important. And the last thing here, which is a lot of us are growing winter vegetables. Thank you if you're doing that. But we're saving our carrots and beets and turnips and parsnips in the ground right now. And it's awfully soggy wet. Maybe we just want to lift them at this point rather than leave them in that wet area. After all that time of being able to grow them, let's get them out of the ground and store them wherever we can, store them cool to get them out. We don't want to lose that thing. And here's one thing that's very, very important. In the summertime, we're going to be on CBC and people are saying it's so dry, my plants are not doing well. This is the time to think about putting a cistern in your garden wherever you can and putting it in the ground so all the water from your eaves troughs will go into your cistern. So in the summertime, when we're getting long periods of dry weather and it's very, very hot, you've got extra water. They're doing it all over Europe right now, but it's something to think about. Since we have the water, let's take advantage of that for a little later on. So there's just a couple of things that I think are really important.
I agree, and thank you so much for that. And of course, get your calls in now. We've got Brian till the top of the hour. Call us at 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950, or email your questions to bctoday@cbc.ca. We'll head to the phone lines now. First up is Mina Lee. Hi, Mina Lee. What is your question for Brian?
Oh, hi. I help at a farm on Salt Spring Island, and this spring the asparagus crop didn't come up. and we think it was because it wasn't watered enough the summer before. Can you talk about asparagus, and do you think that's probably what happened, not enough watering over the summer?
Yeah, mine lead. No, I don't think so. The reason I'm saying that, I've seen asparagus growing in California. They grow it in raised beds massively down there. And then many years ago in the Okanagan, there were huge asparagus crops. Guess what? Both of those are very, very dry areas. So, Mina, you've got a very good question here. But why the asparagus? Because they've massively grown in areas which are incredibly, really dry. So, in Salt Spring is a wonderful area. You've got so many great growing areas over there. Now, did nothing come up, Mani? Is the roots are completely disintegrated? Did you dig up to see what was happening?
I didn't see them, but in the spring I always look so forward to the first shoots.
Yes.
No shoots. No shoots came up.
Yeah. I think there's some other reasons. How many asparagus plants are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about 400-foot long rows.
Oh, wow.
I think.
400. Okay. Yeah. That's something. There's something else here in play, because I know asparagus is very drought tolerant. Did they have the nice new green growth late last spring and into the summertime? Did they have new growth last summer?
In the spring and summer, yes.
Okay, because that's such a good sign.
Not this.
Not this year, yeah, but the year prior to that,
before,
yeah.
The other 7, 8 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mina, I really feel it is not the drought and the long dry periods we've had because, if you've got the green foliage, you know that the plant is doing well, it's thriving. If it didn't have green foliage, then it'd be a concern. I think we need to take a look at what other alternatives out there. If you want to perhaps send me an email via CBC, I'll look into this and see what other ways we can help you here, because asparagus is incredibly hardy, tough, and resilient, and I would like to get going back on it. But let's see if we can figure out what might have happened for you. You bring up a very good point.
All right, Mina Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. But in general, in weather like this, with big crops like that, what would you do when it's getting so wet with, like, say, a big asparagus plant?
Yeah, go out and after the rain falls, in between rain, to find it and check the soil out to see how wet the soil is sitting. That's certainly number one. In spots where if it's underwater, it can rot more quickly than we think. Those are the two concerns I have. So being diligent about knowing what the moisture levels are around the roots. That's my biggest concern, Mina.
All right, thanks so much, Mina. You can send us an email to bctoday@cbc.ca, and we'll get that forwarded to Brian, and hopefully you'll get asparagus next year. We'll head now to Sam in Vernon. Hi, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. How are you? What's your question for Brian?
I'm doing okay. My question for Brian is how likely are we going to have success growing pumpkins this late in the year? We don't have any ground beds. It's all in planter boxes. We got sprouts coming up. That's good. But then we transferred them from the starting tray to the box, and they're not doing as well anymore. I'm just wondering what's going on there.
No, Sam, a really good point. 0 and none is my answer in terms of any cucurbittas at this time of year.
He's not sugarcoating it.
No, I'm not.
I had my suspicion, but.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. And traditionally, they need heat to get going. That's very, very important for them. And most of the good growers, right at the end of May, early part of June, because pumpkins, both for eating and for show for jack-o'-lanterns and so on, are planted about the end of May, early part of June. That's the critical time, just when the heat starts to really become intense. So bottom line is, I would just forget about it right now. Save the seed you possibly can, but in terms of sprouting. I'm sorry, Sam. I don't mean to be mean and tough here, but I'm being mean and tough.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry.
Sam, better luck next year. Thanks so much for calling in. Hopefully you will be able to get those pumpkins in 2026. Claire now in Duncan. What is your question for Brian Minter?
Hi, Brian. My
Hi.
question is about ornamental grasses.
Yes.
I have a couple different types of grasses in my front yard, And one of them last year, I have a Mexican feathergrass. And last year it got snowed on and flattened. And then it never really came back. So I've replaced it this year with a new one. And I'm just wondering if I should be cutting it back level with the ground, or if I should just kind of let it go and then in the spring maybe try and fluff it up, or what should I be doing about that?
Claire, thank you for the question, because I'm sure other people are thinking the same thing. That Mexican feathergrass, Stipa tenuissima, really needs to have, you'd never cut it back. That's the one thing you do. If you do prune it only a little bit, maybe about a third or quarter at the end of the season when it starts to look unhappy, they need really good drainage. That's incredibly important, and a lot of heat. Those are the two things that make the Stipa do so much better for you. And so having wet feet or being cut back are two things that would inhibit it coming back for next year. And but no, it is so popular right now. It's beautiful. I love the wind blows it around. It's just such an amazing grass. But the bottom line is leave well enough alone. It is an evergreen grass, believe it or not, even though it kind of, peters out a wee bit, but it comes back strong. So no pruning, just make sure it has good drainage. And in the spring, when we see it starting to revive, give it some timed release fertilizer to speed up the process of getting it coming back. And the other thing too, remember grasses, so many are herbaceous that die down. We have that nice fall, winter look. But I love the evergreen grasses because they give us so much show year round, and the Carex family in particular. But anyway, the Stipa just needs not to have wet feet and no pruning.
All right. Hope that helps you, Claire. Thanks so much for calling in. We do have a call as well from Jesse in Victoria. Oh, sorry, Wade in Vernon. Hi, Wade. What's your question for Brian?
Hi, Brian. How are you today?
Great. Thank you, Wade.
Great. Listen, I've been listening to you for years. Thank you for all the advice. Anyways.
Thank you.
So I've got two apple trees. Well, now one, unfortunately. My dad planted it over 50 years ago, and it passed this year. Darn.
I'm
but
sorry.
My other tree, it kind of half died. So I pruned as much of the dead stuff out.
Dead wood? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But now I've got kind of like a half a tree.
Okay.
So I wonder if when's a good time to prune it so that, it's coming back good?
Okay, really good question. By the way, apple trees in particular, can be pruned so many different unique ways. The fact that you've lost half of it is not a problem. The secret, though, and we look at our growing industry in the Okanagan, and again, they're all espalier on trees, and the amount of fruit they get is phenomenal. But what you really want to do is train it in such a way that the new growth you can train in a horizontal fashion. Not so much upright growth, but more horizontal growth. If you want to use a trellis or something behind it to enhance that. But remember, it's a sideward growing growth that gets lots of spurs and lots of fruit. It's the upright growth that doesn't give you so much. So that's my main concern, Wade, is to make sure that we prune it in a horizontal fashion, getting lots of sideward growth. That's going to give you fruit much earlier and much longer and much more of it over, your entire life of the tree. So no problem at all. Once things start to grow in the spring, you'll be great.
All right. Hope that helps, Wade. And we have Jesse back on the line from Victoria. Hi, Jesse.
Hey, thanks so much for taking my call, guys.
Of course.
I had a question about jasmine that Brian helped me answer some questions on last time. I'm just trying to figure out if there's better ornamental, very fragrant flowering vine plants that it won't be as fussy as jasmine. It's a little bit more fussy than I was hoping, and I think I might have to move it or something like that again from where it is indoors to outdoors in the summer or something. I was just wondering if there's anything comparably fragrant and climbing that would be a little bit more hardy.
Yeah, good point. And you're right. So many folks love the fragrance of jasmine. The only one that I would try, Jesse, is Jasmine officinale. Officinale seems to be the one that most people have the success. It's white and it's fragrant and it blooms in the summer. It's a zone 7, but a lot of the other ones are zone 8 and even. But if you're going to, before you give up on them, try Jasmine officinale. I love that one. I think it's one of the best. And normally we would recommend, the honeysuckle, Lonicera is great. You have to choose your varieties carefully because so many of them get fungus very easily, and aphis, and they get a list of everything. But there's some very good varieties of the honeysuckle that I think are absolutely worth taking a look at. And some of them are actually pretty good in terms of giving you that wonderful, long, continuous over the summertime growth. And that's what I would take a look at because they're so hardy, they're so vigorous. As long as you give them good air, good sun, and feed them, and they'll be great. Halliana is certainly one of them. Lonicera halliana. I find it's a soft yellow, but one of the cleanest of the varieties that I think is certainly worth a try, Jesse.
All right, Jesse, hope that helps you out. And yes, honeysuckle, one of my very favorite scents in the world. You can still call us and get your questions in. We have a few minutes left with Brian, 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733 or 1-800-825-5950. We've got a call now from Charlie in Vancouver. Hi, Charlie. What's your question for Brian?
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
Last year, this summer, I should say, I planted about 10 different varieties of tomatoes. And I've been growing tomatoes for years and years. But these ones, all except for the little cherry tomatoes, they all rotted. They all went black on the end before I had a chance to harvest them. And I was just wondering if you have any idea what that is and how I can avoid it in the future.
Yeah, it's getting harder to find it right now, but it's still available. The one thing that does save tomatoes from, usually we get an early blight in July 15th and a late blight in August 15th. That has been the nemesis of so many of our tomatoes. But if you use copper spray, copper is the control for that on your tomatoes. Even from the mid-July, I would be just cautious on that. That's one thing to make sure for all variety it doesn't happen. I do have to say that, getting earlier varieties is the way to go. I will say that a lot of the growers are telling me who grow them that early girl and versions of early girl are some of the best to be able to grow because you get that good fruit earlier and over a longer period of time. And that's the idea. So many varieties are too late to get that. I agree with you totally on the cherry tomatoes. They seem to be resilient and bulletproof in terms of all these particular diseases. But if you want to stay with us in CBC, we're going to be talking about tomatoes and peppers specifically coming here and in plenty of time. And maybe perhaps we'll talk about this in January and February. Look at the varieties that are doing best, have the greatest disease tolerance, and have the best flavor. There's so many new varieties out there that I think are worth taking a look at. And that's really something I would, if you could hang into us with CBC for the next few weeks, I'll promise that we'll get some really good names of varieties that I think are well worth a try and much easier to grow and much more tough and resilient in our gardens.
Hope that helps you, Charlie. And yes, certainly stick with us for the next few weeks or even longer, and we'll make sure your tomatoes are doing well next year. We've got an email that's come in, Brian, from Kathy. It says, our lawn was all dug up by crows this fall, leaving us with a mud bath in our yard. What can we do now to get through this winter and encourage some grass to grow in the spring?
Yeah, the grub situation is pretty much ending right now. They've going into a different life form. They'll come out of the ground and start over again. They go through 3 or 4 life cycles. Basically right now, just rake it out, and you can't put seed in right now. It's not a good time to put turf down. Just simply rake it up. And we had this discussion last week in the program. If it's still a problem, please get some form of wire on your lawn so the predators can't dig them up. You'll rake it out, get it cleaned up, put some wire over top. Even people are using it, just look as good, but plastic type of material, anything that's going to prevent the predators from digging up. That's number one. And number two is as soon as we can, and honestly, it's going to be mid-March before we can overseed. The situation seems to be, don't get a pretty grass anymore. Look at the grasses that there are now available, grub-resistant types of grasses. You don't want a smooth, nice lawn. You want rougher grasses that grow a little taller, a little more vigorous. A lot of them had wildflowers in them. So if it's becoming a problem, that's certainly one way organically to prevent the problem. And the other thing is, and it's really no good until you get into July, but usually you're okay with that. The bacillus, it's a bacteria, bacillus, that is in, I think, Scott's grub out. That is the one thing that is controlling the grubs at a very immature stage, and applied at the end of July or latter part of July and early part of August. That is keeping our lawns very clean and free of the grubs. So there's 3 different solutions we can, but in the meantime, get it cleaned up so it doesn't look quite so bad, and then seed perhaps with a new grass, a new type of grass sometime in March.
All right. Hopefully that helps you with the grass, Kathy. And we'll get a call in now from Linda in Nelson.
Oh, hi, Brian. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi.
Happy holidays.
You bet. You too.
I've got my heart set on a midnight marvel hibiscus. I haven't found one yet. I don't know if they still exist. I would love one for the wow factor. I don't know if it's suitable for my area. And if it isn't, could you suggest a suitable replacement?
You know, the one thing I learned in life, Linda, never settle for second. But okay, seriously, we bring them in.
Why didn't you tell me that 40 years ago?
Most of these come from Walter's Nursery in Michigan. They do most of the, in Midnight Marble, they do have it. You're not getting it because the people who grow it around you are not bringing it in. It is widely available. I know we have them coming in next year, confirmed, because it's a beautiful variety. And yes, you can. They're hardy to zone 4, incredibly hardy. They just need lots of sunshine. Sometimes in Vancouver, they don't do as well because they don't get enough heat and sunshine, but where you are in Nelson, absolutely perfect for it. So don't settle for anything other than Midnight Marvel. And if you get a hold of me in the spring, we'll kind of see if we can find some places for you to be able to get those for you.
All right. Hopefully that helps you out, Linda. And no, you don't settle for second best. Brian, that is all the time that we have today. And I believe this is your last time with us before the holidays and also of 2025.
Yes, and what an opportunity to say thank you to all our amazing listeners. I love you guys. You're amazing. And I wish you the best of the Christmas season, but also a wonderful new year. And we're going to have lots of fun. There's so many new things in the new year. I really look forward to it. So thank you for everything and all your support.
Oh, Brian, thank you for always being with us. Our audience loves you so much, and we all do too here on BC Today. Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Of course, Brian Minter is our gardening columnist and joined us from Country Garden Limited in Chilliwack. He'll be back in 2026. And just a heads up, our favorite day of the year is coming up this Monday. It is our annual Christmas Card of the Air show. That means if you want to send holiday cheer to anyone in BC and beyond, just give us a call on Monday or get your emails in ahead of time at bctoday@cbc.ca. And that is our show for today.